Yes.
G.J. Palka.
Yeah. We got to get. Thanks for saying his name. Yes. I have some more stuff on him.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, I need to get back on putting that in the BSM. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. He makes the statement, Paul served in 2 dispensations.
Yes.
Further down, he says the body of Corinthians is part of the council of God, Acts 20:27. I looked that up. That's where he's talking about those churches belonging to the council of God.
Yeah.
And this includes, and then in italicized, he said, things from the casting down, in parentheses, he says KJV foundation, things from the casting down of the world. So those things that happen are for after the disruption of the world.
Yes.
Because in Ephesians, obviously, chosen before.
Yes.
So he shows the difference.
Yes.
Of all those churches, Romans, Colossians, all that stuff. But then I went on a search. Where is there a verse that talks about from the casting down of the world that Paul says something like that in those earlier letters? I started looking up the word casting and down. And then why does he have in parentheses KJV foundation? Is he talking about that being a definition for foundation from KJV?
No, the King James says from the foundation of the world.
Okay.
That's the way it translates it.
Okay.
He translated it from the casting down. Of course, the concordance says from the disruption.
Okay. Okay. That helps clear that up.
Yeah. From the disruption of the world. So when you're looking for that phrase, you're going to have to be, if you're in a concordant, you're going to have to be looking for the disruption from the disruption of the world.
Okay. That'll help me.
So, yeah. So there are certain things that are true that this phrase from the King James, from the foundation of the world, in the concordant, from the disruption of the world. Some translations have from the overthrow of the world. So,
okay.
Yeah. So overthrow.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah. And the whole idea is that, well, everything's been disrupted. The cosmos has been disrupted. And the cosmos is the system. It's the way everything operates.
Okay.
And so between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, there was an overthrow of the whole system of the cosmos was overthrown or disrupted. Or what's the word he used? Cast down?
Casting down.
Casting down, yeah. So it was just casted down. So there was a coup. There was an overthrow.
Right.
And then there is a plan that's set in motion from then on. And the way that's identified in Paul's epistles is from the disruption from that point of overthrow.
Yes.
But then Paul reveals, and it's not just Paul, but the Gospels even tell us that Christ had some things that were before.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only two entities that had anything to do with before that, and it's Christ and then his one body of the secret administration.
The ecclesia, which is his body.
Yeah. So Christ and us in the Logos predated this disruption.
Okay.
And does that help?
Yes, it does tremendously. Yeah. Now I'm going to be looking for some, like the word disruption.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Are you following the theme of that book a little better this time around?
Oh, absolutely. Clear. Okay. This is probably the third time I've read it.
Okay, yeah.
I went hunting for it, found it, started going over it again. He and I were talking last week prior to turning the camera on, and we were talking about how often we say things, we go to Romans 8:1, therefore no condemnation now is made. And we were like, that how we do that. We jump back and forth, probably you're jumping back and forth between dispensations and things that were being taught in those dispensations. But then I said, but there is truth that crosses dispensations, like God is love.
Yes. Trans-dispensational truth.
Yes.
God is always sovereign.
Right. So when
God is always love,
right. When we're talking with someone, I'm comfortable going to Paul's earlier epistles and sharing things that I see as foundational.
Yes.
In what he was doing.
Yeah.
I understood what you were saying about it, and me getting trapped into thinking, that gets back to people accusing us of throwing other things out, and we're just Ephesians, Colossians people.
Yeah. Right.
No, not at all.
Any dispensational position, if you make any attempt at rightly dividing the word of truth or correctly partitioning or cutting the word of truth, which is simply, that's just simply recognizing distinctions that God puts in his word.
Yeah.
If God makes a difference, we make a difference. And no matter what dispensational view you have, whether you think the big change came in Matthew 1, and then people make a distinction between the Old Testament and New Testament, or whether they think it happened in, at Calvary,
yes,
and then it's pre-Calvary and post-Calvary, or whether you think it happened somewhere in the book of Acts, or, somewhere in the book of Acts, which there are people think it started with the ministry of Paul, but no matter what attempt at right division you make, there is those who make no distinction will always accuse you of throwing away parts of the Bible. Even if you were to make the big divide in Matthew, they'd say you're throwing away the Old Testament.
Right.
Well, could that be further from the truth?
Yeah.
I mean, the first verses of Genesis are foundational. That God creates evil is foundational. That all our days are written in his scroll or his book. We're not throwing away the Old Testament. We're just reading the Old Testament in light of current revelation, and so we're not getting rid of the Gospels. And of course we're not getting rid of Paul's earlier epistles. Right. They're foundational, and they're more foundational than the Gospels because there's a progression of revelation there, and the Gospels are more foundational than the Old Testament. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, Clyde, I'll cut in there just to hopefully, encourage you about your studies and all. Everything we could say about what you're doing is amazing. But I do see you talk about the divine energy, and I know you're in it. You're living it. It's got you, which is wonderful, and it's real. And it keeps showing you more things. There's more to this. And so I just want to, if any way I could, to encourage you that how much I appreciate it, but how important it is to all these things that we talk about, because I'm guilty. My mind goes there too. It becomes, and there's nothing wrong with gaining knowledge and then arguing back positions. But I'm so thankful and grateful to you that you're seeing beyond all that. What you've said, you say it, Clyde. Well, and I'll say it. There's so much more we've yet to tap into behind these words in Scripture. Yes. There's another realm out there.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the disrupt, talking about us now, wait a minute, look at all these Old Testament things that happen. Look at these other gods and the Elohim, and then I'm just blabbing. I'll quit there.
No,
there's something behind these words that's way bigger.
Yeah.
Oh yes, for sure.
Then there's way more to it than that, and it's wonderful news. It's great news.
I would add to that, when you're talking about that, I'm thinking of the warnings Paul gives us about men who will despoil your faith, vain prattlings, that type of language. However, today, I look at those passages and I go, okay, there's another realm that operates in that.
Yes.
That other realm loves that distraction.
Yes.
So let's get on doctrine. Let's get on theory. Let's get on. And so now I look at those verses and I understand Paul's warnings, but I also know the motivation behind it. And I know that that's part of that other realm, that unseen.
Yes.
That loves when we do that.
Yes.
You know, getting off point.
And you know what you can do is you can truth, not of course, obviously error is a huge distraction the adversary uses, but truth can be a distraction the adversary uses.
That's yeah.
Thank you.
That sums it up.
And so
sums it up a little bit.
And
right.
And one of the main things is truth that was given to someone else, for instance, you know, and you just use the, you know, the most obvious examples. You know, God told Noah to build an ark. So, you know, if you and I get busy trying to build an ark, well, the ark was truth, but it's not truth today, you know. And so, you know, you can get absorbed in truth that is a total distraction because it's not God's current program, you know. And then there's also levels of truth, you know, very simple, basic truths, you know. And I think, you know, Steve and Andy and I were talking about this the other day, and where some of the things that I've come to see and understand about the scriptures, if that's all I focused on, that would be a distraction because I'd be missing the greater points, you know. I'd be missing the, you know, the further revelation, you know, the further realization. And so, yeah, I certainly agree with everything you said, Dean.
You know, yesterday I was in this book and some others looking at things. You and I had corresponded with you through text about resource materials.
Yeah.
And then you and I had a back and forth about, we talked about a show based on realization versus resource material, you know, all of this stuff.
Realization versus information.
Yes. Yes. So of course that's been zipping around in my head. And yesterday I became aware in my mind that these two guys right here, I have to be careful, I'm going to get emotional. I'm not careful. We connected 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 1996, he and I started working in toxicology together. And I think we started in April. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking 30 years. This is man's way versus God's way.
Yeah.
And 30 years throughout, how many times have we gotten together, my house, your house, mostly here, you know? And I started thinking, I mean, it just struck me. And then what that created was this relationship.
Yeah.
Well, then that took me to where I am today in my relationship with Father. You know, starting with A.P. Adams challenging me by, you know, he says on our money, it says, in God we trust. We don't trust who we don't know.
Yeah.
And so that became pivotal. I started thinking right there, I got to know who God is. Yeah. Well, then the sovereignty message came in, and that's where I've been for 30 years.
Yeah.
Pursuing his sovereignty. How far does it reach? You know? And now, of course, so then I started thinking that's my relationship with Father. So my relationship has become my scholarship. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that relationship that's feeding me realizations. It's not.
Yeah.
the books and resources and authors and people, yes, they fill in gaps and help me figure things out and stuff. They help me go, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Both the contrast.
Yeah.
But it is the relationship that's giving me scholarship.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that hit me yesterday like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're saying that, Chris, because there's things like that hit us, and we can encourage. You always want to encourage others. There's so many others that are caught in that distraction. How we've been caught so many times of thinking, well, because we don't have enough knowledge, or because we can't figure this out, that we don't. We get distracted and not focusing on the main thing. Now, wait a minute. We do have this relationship.
Yes.
And then in Christ, and learning what all this could mean in this relational way right now today. Well, that's humanity. They have that too. God is in them.
Yeah.
And so we can go about our day and we get to witness that or share that and just see what's going on. It doesn't matter how we feel and all those distractions. Because like I was telling Chris this morning, I go in, I don't even want to describe it like this, but the divine energy, I know where you're at. I've tasted it. I've been there. I just don't feel like I stay there. So I mistakenly probably, or whatever, I'm going to look back upon is like, what was I doing? When I tasted something, and then I thought I was in a pursuit of trying to get back to that or some, all these weird things. I was distracted along my path.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, Father wrote it, so it's all good.
Exactly.
And we talked about that too, to where you can be like, oh, okay, that's what Chris said. At the shoulders drop, you relax, and you realize, these are those net you taught on it, Clyde. I mean, it's just seeing it again fresh that, those times are some of the most important times.
Yes,
absolutely. That God's building in us so that we can then pick up this book, like Chris, and you read the first, was you in the first page or something? You read the first couple and you're like, we read the book 3 or 4 times, and this is Chris's example on this, but I've done it with other books. I'm like, wait a minute, I read this 3 or 4 times. I know this book. Then I read the first page. It's like, I don't know what's in this book. You realize there's so much more.
Yeah.
There's so much behind it. Like, oh yeah.
You discredit
those years,
all that time that was going by that you were thinking, I'm not in that energy. I need to be,
Yeah, I don't know if that's even the right way to describe it, but yeah.
Yeah, but you start somehow. We don't credit the time that's going on where he's still working. It's like I said this morning, so often we do say, God has a way, and it appears to us that he's playing the long game. Okay. It takes patience and all these things. And then Dean and I have said, Paul's revelation was instantaneous. He's like the one that we try to provide contrast. He's the one that was knocked off his, knocked onto his butt. And then I started thinking, well, I'm discrediting all the preparatory time God had him in.
Yeah.
His
and even
up to that moment.
And then that was just the start.
Yeah.
And even and it's just a start, because even that Damascus Road experience was only a start.
Yes.
And he said he would, even when he wrote to the Corinthians, he said, I'm going to come to visions and revelations of the Lord. He knew that this understanding was ongoing until it reached the climax, of the secret administration.
Yes.
Yeah. So even that dramatic event was not a be all and end all.
Yeah. It's not unlike we're let in on little glimpses of Christ's life the first 30 years.
Yeah.
Mostly we have an intimate, knowledge of his last 3 years. But it would be a mistake not to imagine all the preparatory, all that is written for Christ before that 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. What was that 30 years about?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, was it was it meaningless and he's just waiting around? No, it was all part of the divine, it was all part of the logos and a part of the divine energy.
You know, I read a paragraph from Ballinger in this book yesterday, and I thought this has been the process Father's been bringing me through. I bring it up all the time to Dean, how I'll kind of like let someone else do my own thinking in a way. You know, I'll gravitate to something, and sort of suspend my thinking for theirs or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate this. A student of God's word must always be willing to unlearn that which he learned from man in order to learn from the word itself.
Yeah.
We have found that many of our most cherished doctrines turn out to be the doctrines of men and not truth learned from the study of God's word. You would think at this point I would be, that wouldn't strike me as much as, I know that. But it's amazing how going over that again does that cementing of truth, that you need to be adjustable. You need to be, that's one of the first things you and I, the first time I met you up there in Pennsylvania, was this word adjustable.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that was like, how can you forget that? You need to be adjustable.
Yeah.
But it's humbling.
Yes.
It is humbling.
It's so humbling, and then in that wonderful way though, of being like, oh yeah, just Father has to show us it. Well, that's what the setup was about realization versus information or whatever. But even those kind of thinking, we can all go down our different rabbit holes of perspective and get all that twisted up. But those things that we think are so simple. Oh yeah, I know that. And it's like, what do we really? Not to get out there, felt weird like this. Like, what do we really know? I just want to say it in a way. There's so much out there that we don't. But it's all wonderful. It's all good news.
Yeah.
It's not about then trying to find out more so I can defend a position or something.
Right.
There's so much more out there that we're not seeing fully yet. But it's wonderful. It's what does keep us. It sustains us, is your word, right? It keeps us going, of course. Right. Obviously,
it's sufficient.
Yeah. Wherever we're at, we know
that eventually will bubble up as I'm struggling and so forth. I hear, is it sufficient? And then I relax. Then the shoulders come down. Then I'm like, okay, it's sufficient. I'll wait on you. And that's comforting. And we know that our listeners, some of our listeners, we know from example and from history, this is what we're desiring to encourage them about. When they're in those moments, you're fine. You're still exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
Don't get caught up in these emotions or these distractions. You're fine.
Yeah, and if I could say that, I mentioned it with Chris too, just in some of our personal things we might talk about, or how I can gain so much, and I can say I've learned so much. And there are things that I do know about this relationship with Father that I'm not ashamed to talk about or show someone. But then there's times that'll happen to me in my closest relationships with my wife or Chris or somebody. There'll be a basic question, and it's as if I can't answer it. So I want to just encourage anybody anybody out there that then views themselves or views that as being, something to be upset about. So, well, maybe you can't answer it because that answer that you've learned from man and from yourself and through your human filters, there's more to the answer. It's not just a simple answer that you want to just give, because then that might run somebody else's journey. They go down a rabbit hole and they think they know the truth now.
Yeah.
I'm getting more comfortable with
I think
not having to have any answer.
The last time we talked with you, Clyde, you brought up something about not being the answer man. Don't put yourself, we do it to ourselves. We say, you try to become the answer man.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for that. You have a good series. I think it's a 3-parter, and I think it is. And it was on study. And you talk about a person being put in a room with these resource materials.
Yeah.
A computer, the Greek English lexicon from Bullinger, whatever, all these books, And are you going to learn the truth of God? And then you went so far as to say, I got news for you. If you put Jesus in that room with you, it's still going to be up to the Creator.
Exactly. If you're not granted divine realization, you're not going to see.
Yeah. Right. And then being okay with what he has me blind to.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that now.
Right.
I kind of understand it. It's that process, And so I'm okay with not being the answer man.
Yeah.
It's incredible peace. Well, and to me, it's that focus on my relationship with him, period. That's the end of it.
Yeah, certainly.